Welcome into another Inside Carolina podcast. We need to get some baseball stuff on that. I need to request that there is baseball content on the opening video.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I did
I
notice
knew
that.
when I was watching it, I was like, uh-oh, it doesn't
I
have
noticed
baseball. It will have baseball on it next time, promise.
All right, I'll hold you to that promise.
John and Michelle, I need to get some baseball on that. We are talking with Scott Forbes, head North Carolina baseball coach. Shout out to Johnny T-shirt and Congruity. Scott, I'll get right in it. We had media day with you, I guess last week, a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
And you talked a lot about if we started today or if we played today, this would be the lineup, I think. How has that changed, or will it change, or can it change, and how does it change in the weeks leading up to the season opener on February 14th, Valentine's Day? And how difficult is it for players to move in and out of your quote-unquote if we played today lineup before actually opening day?
I feel like the lineup is, if we play today, I know what it would be. But we don't play today. We got a week from tomorrow. So obviously there is a health issue. You got to hope everybody's healthy going into that first game, and everybody's healthy now, but we got scrimmages, and we hope and pray that still remains the case. But to answer your question, I feel like I do know what it is, positionally and batting order, really, at this point, for the most part. I might experiment a little bit with the batting order this weekend when we scrimmage, just to have different looks, but we're still trying to get guys as many at-bats as possible. I always try to play the infield that's going to potentially be the starting infield together on one team and the outfield on the other team, so they can be stacked at the top of the order in the scrimmages. But I'll probably play the full lineup, maybe one or two scrimmages this weekend. And then to answer your question, how hard it is to get in the lineup, you just never know. I remind our guys, there was a really good video out by a coach a couple of days ago, just talking about, like, you don't know when your opportunity's coming. And if you're working and you're ready for it, you'll take advantage of that opportunity. So I feel like we've got some depth, and there'll be guys that we will use. It'll be in the lineup as well that don't start opening day.
You've done this for a while, been head coach for a while, had been the decision maker for a while. How many times have you gone into a season saying, this is what it's going to be, I feel good about this, and then it doesn't take but a couple games to realize we got to move it around?
I think most of the time that's the case on the mound, unless you have that rare year where, in 2009 we returned White, Warren, Harvey. That's a tough weekend rotation to crack. With Patrick Johnson midweek, you're talking about three major leaguers and a midweek starter that was an All-American at one point and won, I think, 13 games his senior year. So I think the mound is the biggest thing. If you don't go in the season with a proven closer, which is hard to do. We went into 2007 with Kerrigan. We went into 2012 with Michael Morin. And other than that, here, the closers had to emerge, or you feel like you've had some options. Positionally, I think there's always going to be a surprise. There's going to be a guy that you think is going to do something potentially, or a guy that just nips on somebody's heels like Gavin did last year. But for the most part, I feel like it's more on the mound, Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, you're talking about surprising. Who do you think could surprise us this year that we haven't really looked at that much, or hasn't gotten that much playing time in the fall or in your preseason scrimmages?
Everybody's played for the most part, obviously, because we haven't played opponents. If you look at our team being an older team, it is one of those teams, it's not going to be easy to crack the lineup. These guys have played, opening day, the lineup I would put out there, everybody has played a full college season. Some of them have played 5. And they're bigger and they're stronger, and they're not old. People say, oh, I'm old. Well, you might be old for college baseball, but you're not old. The average, you look at these major league rosters, those are grown men. Most of them between 27 and 32. But I would say Perry Hargett has stood out is a guy that can make things happen. Carter Friend just had a really good preseason. He's much bigger. He's much stronger. He's versatile. So it's a right-handed bat and a left-handed bat that brings speed to the table. And we've got, Reese Holbrooks had a solid preseason. He's an older guy that knows the system, and he'll be to help us in some way, shape, or form. But also, McCadden Dye, although he's played a lot, I think he's got a chance to make some type of impact. So I think what you'll see, Grace, is some late game substitutions potentially to maybe make us even stronger defensively. And we're confident in leaving those guys in to have at bats as well.
You talked about, how old your team is, and at Media Day it was a lot about how this team is anchored up the middle with Luke in the middle infield and then Kane at center in the outfield. How important for the team locker room and in general is having Jackson Vanderbrink back to play another season?
It's a big deal. Number one for Jackson, because he had the faith to come back to the University of North Carolina. And, that process started a long time ago. And, I want to give credit where credit's due. And Carter Hicks drove that whole thing. I worked with Carter Hicks. And if it hadn't been for Carter Hicks, Jackson Vanderbrink wouldn't be back here for his hard work, attention to detail, keeping detailed notes on everything. And then we had some big-time support in helping us find a way. Because Jackson deserved to be back here. But having him back is huge. He's a captain. He's a leader. He's a lead by example. You saw that last year. But he's also a better player. He's bigger. He's stronger. He's versatile. He can play second, short, and third. Most teams, all season we played last year, he's an everyday player no matter what he's doing. You just stick with him. And that's going to be the case this year. He's a guy that I'm just going to stick with. And he knows that I'm going to stick with him. And, if he locks down second base or whatever defensive position he's playing, there's going to be no reason to ever take Jackson Vanderbrink out, because that defense up the middle is so important.
Is he going to be a guy, and we're talking about Jackson Vanderbrink, is he going to be a guy that you sort of point to for maybe the rest of your coaching career as, look, this guy was voted captain. He came in, he had a good year. He was voted captain. He did not have a great year. He came on at the end of the year. He stuck with it, and now he's in position. He sounds like one of those guys, like a standard guy that you could
no question
point to forever. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tommy, that's so important. Wherever you are, you got to have standards, and you have to have a great culture. Doesn't mean you have the best team every year, but it has to be embedded, and you have to sustain it. And if you have guys like Jackson Vanderbrink, you have to do less as the coach. You still have to do a lot because it's your responsibility. But yes, we will point to Jackson Vanderbrink because, here's a guy, this guy was all ACC and he had good numbers, 50 RBIs, more walks and strikeouts, had a chance, to sign professionally after that junior year, came back, didn't have a great year. So, I tell our guys all the time, the game's going to reward you in some way, shape, or form if your attitude's right, if you're a team first guy. And on the other side, you're going to get karma and you're going to get humble pie if you're not.
We got a humble pie in, so mark that one off your bingo card if you're watching. We still got a coaching reference. You haven't given us coaching reference the last couple times we've seen you. We're waiting for it.
I get you today.
We talk about the jump from freshmen. Obviously, college players are getting just better and better and better, but the jump from a freshman year to a sophomore year, Dean Smith used to always talk about it was a huge jump. How have you seen Gavin Gallaher grow? One thing I've noticed is he's more outgoing. He's more talkative. At the first pitch dinner, he was very talkative and chatting folks up, and that's part of the maturity and part of the growth. But as far as on the field, what have you seen from him that sort of can build off? Because he etched himself in Carolina lore as a freshman. You sort of set the bar that high. You gotta keep jumping and keep climbing it. What's he been looking like in the offseason, getting ready for that?
A lot of people do talk about that. Is this kid going to have the sophomore slump? Fall in love with his success and not work? I don't, I tell our guys I don't believe in a sophomore slump. You create a sophomore slump, in my opinion, because you're the one that gets satisfied with playing every day. And if you do that, somebody's going to come in here and take your job anyway. So really with Gavin, it's been at the end of the season sitting down and just making sure he understood the importance of working to get better. You need to come back from the Cape. I'm not going to look at what average you hit. I'm going to look at you, your body. Did you get in the weight room? Are you more versatile? Can you play more than just third base? Or are you satisfied with, the status quo of I had a great freshman year and I'm going to have a great sophomore year because of that? So I would say the biggest difference in Gavin is, besides being in our program a full year, he's learned to be a better leader. Like you said, by nature, he wasn't a huge talker, but he's also learned to be a better practice player. Gavin is gifted, and sometimes when you're gifted, you can have a tendency to think that you're a gamer, quote. And I tell our guys, I've never seen a gamer from the standpoint they're gamers because they work their tails off in practice. So there are guys that are better in games. There's no doubt about it because they have a lower heart rate. And Gavin's got that gift where no situation is too big for him. But, if you're going to be a true gamer and be one of the best players on the field, your work ethic behind the scenes when nobody's watching, you just have to, that's the factor. So we've challenged him constantly to be that because we need him to be that in practice every day. And he's got to get better.
Talking about sophomores, let's talk about Luke. This is your battery. You talked about that his leadership has just kind of skyrocketed. And he talked, what I thought was really incredible for him to say during media day is about how most of his life is to make sure the pitchers' lives are easier and helping manage that pitching staff. I think, and Tommy and I have talked about this, that he's going to be one of the most important people you have on the field, playing wise and leadership wise. How did you see him grow and kind of appreciate the game from not being able to play in the fall? And how do you think that's going to influence his sophomore season?
Yeah, that was hard on Luke not playing in the fall to answer that question. But, he still was Luke. The thing about Luke you'll notice is that smile, that joy of playing, which I tell our players that needs to be contagious. Luke has fun playing the game. I don't think he plays tight. He plays loose. He plays in the moment. And that's just a gift. Some people have to really work on learning how to do that because they carry over things. Luke doesn't do that. Now, Luke caught every day on an Omaha team. He was in huge situations. He made some mistakes. He was human, but he's better. He played with USA Baseball. His body improved during the time he was off in the fall. He worked hard in the weight room. He's a faster, better base runner. He's a more versatile player. We think he can play first base now when he's not catching. We've worked really hard with him there, so we don't have to just put him to that DH role. But Luke also makes the other catchers better. So Haskin really helped Luke maturity-wise, and Luke saw that, and Luke is, smart enough to know, like, okay, now if I was the guy anyway last year, but if I'm the guy, I need to help McAdye get better. I need to help Ron Kellis get better. I need to help Wilson get better because those guys might be behind the plate and we don't want to miss a beat. We might miss a beat in certain physical areas and maybe a little bit of talent area, but we need to not catch Luke every inning of every game. But the camaraderie he has with the pitchers also is extremely important, and they have confidence in him. But he just makes our whole team better because overall, he's probably our most talented player, top to bottom. If you look at it from the pro side, especially the power, the arm, the ability to steal pitches, very gifted defensively. So you need your best player to be one of your hardest workers and one of your best leaders, and Luke is that for sure. And Vance took him under his wing as well last year and really helped him in that area.
It seems like the theme, you mentioned it a few times, is versatility. How much of it is a luxury to have Ron Kellis, who can play left and can also catch, and Gavin, who, as you've said, can play almost every position but pitcher and catcher. And then you can even now plug in Luke at first. You can plug in Mac at catcher. How much are we going to see that play out during the season, and how much of a luxury is that to have So you're not having Luke catch almost every inning and stuff like that.
Yeah, now more than ever, moving forward, it's going to be so important, versatility. You have to be able to play multiple positions. You have to be able to move. You have to be athletic. Our roster's shrinking, and we still have to keep the bulk of our roster with pitchers. So we need guys like Ron Kellis, like Perry Hargett, like even if Tyson Bass came in here. He was a shortstop in high school. Hunter Stokely, he can play third base if we need him to play third base. He may not have as much range as Gavin, but as a coach, our job is to plan for, as Bobby Bowden said, there's your coaching reference. He used to have meetings with his teams. Okay, let's play the what if game. So Coach Gaines and Coach Howell and I sit in here before every game like, all right, well, Jason DeCaro goes 5 innings, 6 innings, 7 innings. There's not much what if. But what if we have to go to a pitcher in the second? What if we have an injury, somewhere on the field? Who's going to go where? So that's what we've been focusing on a lot this preseason. So we are versatile. I would prefer to not have to use a ton of that versatility and leave our infield and our outfield pretty much where it is. But the more you have, the better you have. And the more versatility you have, the more you can withstand that adversity part of the season that every team has. Even in 13, at the end, we just kind of hit a little rut, even though we ended up 59 and whatever, 12. We know like how we're playing. The outside doesn't always know, even if we win a game. So that's going to it's going to be a factor, and it's going to help us win games, I think, too. Just a guy off the bench, for instance, Grace, they can come in and run in the 8th and score from first base, and then we have a defensive replacement that doesn't make us take a step back.
Talking with head coach Scott Forbes, North Carolina Tar Heels. Opening day, February 14th, 4 o'clock in the Bosh against Texas Tech. Scott, what did you learn from this trip to Omaha? I mean, we know the history. You got the pictures behind you. You guys went repeatedly, but then there was a little bit of a gap, and then you get back last year, and it doesn't end as well as you wanted it to, but it felt like a stepping stone, great learning experience. What did you as a head coach learn in those situations going to Omaha with this team? It's a very different team this year, but there's a lot that went with you that are back.
Oh, no question.
And the experience has to be great for them, but as a head coach, what did you specifically learn?
I would say the number one thing that I didn't learn, but I realize now more than ever, is how hard it is to get there. And to win a championship, and to be there have a chance to get there every year, how difficult that is. I was watching the Arkansas-Kentucky basketball game, and they showed a stat of what's his name? I just drew a blank. Head coach at Arkansas now. It wasn't
Calipari.
Calipari, right? And I looked at his success at Kentucky. How many times Sweet 16, Final Four, won national championship? I think about Mike Martin Sr. a million times to Omaha. So number one, appreciating how hard it is to get here, to get there, and appreciating everything that goes into it. But also understanding that, I learned too, you got to trust your players. You have to let them play. You have to let them make plays. And then you got to ride the wave again every season. You can't get too high. You can't get too low. As a matter of fact, I've gotten more where I'm going to be on our team after wins way more than I am after losses, because everybody has a tendency to let their guard down a little bit when they win. And then also when you lose, we're all trying to fix everything, right? So I want to prevent that panic within the team. But the appreciation of how hard it is to get there. And then once you get there, you're working your tail off. It's not a vacation. I'm not going to Omaha for a vacation. Everybody else that goes, I enjoy watching them enjoy it. The fans, the families, that's awesome. But we do want to win it. And then realizing okay, I've been in those dugouts 8 times now, and just the how fine the line is. And then going back after the season, say, okay, if we get back, how can we do this? How can we do that to try to knock that door down? So that would be the biggest thing, and enjoy every season. I've learned. I'm not thinking about right now Omaha, I'm thinking about, okay, how can we get better today, and how can I help this team hopefully experience the same thing, because every team's different.
Mm-hmm. So when you look at it, you get there, you fall a little bit short. You see a team like Tennessee that it's an interesting player they added recently. We won't talk about people that aren't here. We worry about people that are here. But
I'll be happy to, whatever.
well, let's talk about Alberto, because
Yeah,
he got caught up in the eligibility thing. He transfers to Tampa, which Tampa's a solid program, and then
absolutely.
he pops up in Tennessee. I mean, how does this kind of stuff happen with NCAA and college athletics? I mean, we talked about Jackson, and he made it back. But your thoughts just on that? I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I think
No question. It's
weird.
crazy. It is a different time. A lot of it has to do with the Pavia case. Still some unknown about it. Jackson's case is separate. But we started this process with Alberto to try to get him back here early, almost late December, from the standpoint of, well, he wasn't on the portal yet, but he was a former player. So, we had to be careful with all that. But Alberto played here 3 years. And Alberto, when he has a question or when he is looking for advice, thankfully, he's going to call me. He's like a son to me. He's an unbelievable human being. I want whatever is best for Alberto Osuna. But at the end of the day, as it continued to unfold, Alberto wanted to come back to UNC. That's all I can tell you. I can't go into the details of. I'm not sure if he 100% will be eligible to play at Tennessee, but I hope he is, because he deserves to play. And if Tennessee found a way, and we didn't, I can tell you from the coaching standpoint, every person that works at Boshamer Stadium did everything in their power to get Alberto Osuna back here. And I talked to him last night, checked in on him. He called me for advice, like I just told you, and he's just a special human being, and that's something Alberto knows after being in our program. Look, man, like, I want you to go wherever you're going if it's not UNC and have success. So I'm hoping for him, he is able to play at Tennessee. I don't know how exactly, Tommy. You'd have to call Tennessee, and you'd have to call our folks over there on campus, because at the end of the day, he's not here.
Yeah, who knows how it works? But it was, he's still hitting parking lot shots on social media out there for Tennessee.
Yeah,
I just thought it was.
I talked to him. I talked to him yesterday and asked him how the first scrimmage went, and I went as far to talk to Tony. I've known Tony a long time, because I wanted to make sure he knew what type of human being he was getting. And he may not be able to play. He's not currently eligible. That will play itself out. A lot of these cases will play themselves out. But, all of us here, if you're around Alberto Osuna every single day, and, the character he has and his parents have, you hope that whatever happens with him is good.
I mean, you talk about giving advice, and last season, one of my favorite things that you talked about is the love that you have for not just you have for your program, but that all of the guys in your program and coaches have for each other. And at the first pitch banquet, I know that you talked about the 5 pillars, and one of those for you guys is unity. How important is having that bond, even with guys like Alberto who aren't at UNC anymore? And how does that lead to a better team on the field as it does off the field?
That's a great question. I was thinking about this driving home yesterday, how much has changed, because I saw an interview with the coach, loyalty wise, because you got the transfer portal. We also have to utilize the transfer portal. And at the end of the day, my job is to put a winning team on the field. However, when you're in our program, whether or not you play, whether or not you're a superstar, we value, the relationship side and doing all we can to help you succeed and make you better in every area. It doesn't mean you're not going to transfer. It doesn't mean everything's going to go rosy. But at the end of the day, we talk about it all the time as a staff and as a team. People remember you most on how you treated them, and every player here is going to be treated well, is going to be given the resources to succeed. And, you need to make sure your team understands the importance. Talk about unity is there's so much noise these kids get now. Even compared to when I first started coaching, you got a hitting coach, you got a strength coach, you got this coach, you got that coach, and you got the parents and you got the grandparents, but what's your mission with the team? The team's mission is to win. And that has to trump everything else. And if it doesn't trump everything else, it's in the place for you. I mean, it's just as simple as it gets with North Carolina baseball. So getting the guys to understand that and to understand okay, you can do both. But if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. I mean, that's as blunt as I can get it. But I feel like, that's something that we work on, and none of us are perfect, but that's something we work on every single day.
Looking forward, Texas Tech opening weekend. I'm very excited. You're bringing missed the tournament last year, but a super high caliber, lot of rich history program. What are you telling the guys leading up to opening day? Because the last two, I think, opening weekends you had were not as strong as the one you're about to lead into.
Our whole philosophy is not concentrate on the opponent, but the guys are the guys, right? So they know the history of Texas Tech. I really haven't told them anything different than I told them when we open up with whoever it is. It's just the way we do things here, and you have to believe in it and buy into it because it protects you against both. It's like, oh, we got Texas Tech rolling here. They've been to Omaha this many times. Well, your preparation should be the same no matter what, because if we don't play well, we're going to get beat no matter who we play. And if you get caught up in raising it a level and playing at the opponent's level, that's not the mindset that's going to work. So I haven't said a lot about Texas Tech. I just told the guys how excited I was for them because it's going to sell more tickets. It is obviously a team that has a lot of tradition, a team that's not going to walk down the steps and look on the walls and be intimidated by the College World Series appearances, the ACC championships, the All-Americans, because they have tradition. So really it's more like, okay, this is what you guys came to UNC for. And you want to play in games like this, and it just happens to be opening weekend. Hopefully that will create a bigger buzz, and we'll have more fans in the seats.
Let me ask you, and we could talk all day. And you said we could, but I'm not going to keep you all day.
I'll put plenty of time aside.
Let's talk about failure. Whether it's losing a game or whether it's striking out or being in a slump. How do you coach young men who were some of the best in their sport when they were in high school or at their other places? They were some of the best on the field. But inevitably, like you say, humble pie, it's going to get you. What's the coaching process for you and your staff to coach guys out of that and to keep guys positive? I mean, I've been in some dugouts in my non-college level life where a kid strikes out, they think the world is ending. And it is maddening. How do you approach that as a coaching staff and all that to deal with these guys who have had success at the highest levels, but also maybe haven't felt the failure that baseball is always going to give you?
Yeah, I think identifying the fact that you are going to fail first. That's what we talk about. It's a sport where you're going to fail, especially if you're a hitter. You're going to fail more than you succeed. The numbers are the numbers. There aren't many businesses where you're 3 out of 10 right and you're getting paid $150 million in the big leagues, or you can hit 210 and hit 50 home runs and drive in runs. So there's different ways. We some things are non-negotiable in our program, and it starts with me. So I have to be the one that has positive body language. I have to be the one that has poise first. When failure happens, like a loss, a sack bunt we don't get down, a bad start, a reliever that's been reliable, that walks the first two. So the present that the head coach has, the presence, and then the other coaches have to have is very important. So it starts with us, and we talk about it as a staff. I tell our players, you're going to have poise, and you're going to have positivity. It's non-negotiable. So if that's not who you are, you're going to have to figure it out, and I'll help you figure it out. Because some guys by nature, they're going to slump their shoulders, they're going to throw their helmets. But I mean, I don't have to let them. So once they know, like, okay, well, if you want to keep doing that, you can just sit beside me in here. I can just take a Sharpie, take you out of the lineup, and put somebody else in. It's that simple. But then you have to do it. But the guys start figuring out, like, okay, this helps. Like, I'm telling them, based on 10 years of calling pitches, if you walk to the plate a certain way, I either think, man, this guy's good, or I've got him. Just by the way he carries himself, right? At bat after at bat after at bat. Defensively is the same thing. Players don't work on that side of it as much as they need to. We do here. I remind our infielders, you should be thinking next play, next ball, hit the ball to me, positive body language, positive words we want coming out of the dugout. We don't need to be yelling. We don't need to be I don't believe in distractions from what we're trying to do. So if I cause a scene and I just light up a player in the middle of a game, the whole team's going to look at that. So, I'd rather just take them out of the game and talk to them one-on-one. So I think the individual conversations as a head coach are what is most important to helping a kid have confidence. Just talking to that kid individually, walking around the field. And that's what I love the most about our staff. They're such great coaches at practice today. I can walk around and say, Tommy, like, hey, man, that you can play left field. Like, believe in yourself. Like, believe in your first step. Believe when you walk to the plate, like, you can be over 3 or 3 strikeouts, but you've got power where you can change the game just like that. And so if you're carrying over those, and it's the same thing on the mound. I was big on that with poise and your body language. So it's something we all work on, and you had to fake it sometimes. And I'm out there coaching third base, and, you got nerves running. It's a big moment. Madera lays down a bunt, and it goes this far foul. In your brain, you think, God, somebody, we're going to freaking lose this game. Then you got to flip it and move on and be positive and hope for the best. So we work on it hard.
Well, I can play left, but you're going to need like 3 cutoff guys before we get second. I'll hit the first one 10 feet out.
You don't have the arm.
the arm left me at 15.
I think too, convincing players and making them understand. Another coachism for you is we define success through John Wooden's definition of, okay, what is it? There's the world's definition, and then what is the true definition? And John Wooden's so interesting to me because, he started as an English teacher, and that's where he defined his definition of success. And that is literally the individual, every player, and me just doing the best you can with what you got and getting rid of the comparisons because, hey, you're not going to be Dustin Ackley necessarily. So just be the best version of you. And if you do that, you're going to, that is true success. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a CEO when you leave here either, but it means you're successful in the right lens, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've always thought harshly of folks that criticize players for not being able to do something. And I'm like, it's not the player's fault that they can't do something. It's the coach's fault for putting them in a position to have to do something that they cannot do.
That you haven't seen them do.
Yeah. Is that fair? Is that a fair way for a fan to watch a game rather than I blame the coaches rather than blame the players?
I blame the coaches all the time. I blame myself. I think that's it's like I have $2 to play volleyball, and I'm not at their practices. I'm not calling their coaches. I'm probably not even going to speak to their coaches except say, hey, how you doing? Because I'm not at practice every day. So I think trusting the whole program is like, okay, well, they're putting this kid up there to bunt because they obviously have seen it. And just because he fails doesn't mean any coach or anybody's putting them up there to fail. But I'm the same way. Like, I'm going to protect our players because I've never coached a player in my life that went up there and wanted to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, they all
That's
want
it.
to succeed. They all want to do their best. And, that's what we talk about. It's funny you said that because I'm sitting here writing down first and third stuff. Told our players yesterday, I'm not going to ask you to do something we haven't worked on. I'm not going to ask you to work on this first and third offensive play. I'm not going to put it on a game unless we practice it over and over and over. So simplifying those things and reminding yourself as a coach, don't ask your players to do something that you haven't seen them do or you haven't worked really hard to help them be successful to do.
When you're standing on third and you have that Alex Medeiros situation and you go through the thinking, oh, we might actually lose this game, and then you have to flip the switch. How do you flip that positivity switch to make sure that you're the guy for your team? How do you, Scott Forbes, do that in those little tight situations?
I just really work to be in that moment, like as deep as I can be, because you can't do anything about it. You cannot do anything about it. And also understanding that for me, like, I still want to be in the moment. Like, that's where I've trained my mind. Like, I want to be in that big, tough, and I'm okay. I'm okay making that decision. And you have to be. If not, you don't have the kahunas is the word I'm looking for to make. I mean, you got to make the decision, and you're either going to be the hero or the goat most of the time. If it works, it's the players. That's the way it should be. And if it doesn't, it's the coach. Welcome to coaching. Don't do it if you can't take it. So I look forward to it more. Like, I try to put myself like, okay, I want to be coaching third base with a runner on third in Omaha in the national championship. And are we going to send him or not in a sac fly? So stuff like that, I enjoy it. And, we have a saying too with our team, hey, you're in big boy country. You signed up for it. So, embrace it. And you can't be afraid to fail, Grace. That's the thing. Like, you just have to know that it's part of it. But if you're afraid of it, I think your chances of succeeding are way less. And I'm a go for it person. I want our team to be a go for it team. I want them to play aggressive. I want it to be their default, under control. But I just have worked really hard on training my mind. I give credit to my mom. She gave me a book in college called The Power of Positive Thinking. It's the best book probably I've ever read to this day.
On the idea of the power of positive thinking and all of your coachisms, what do you think is the coachism or the advice from John Wooden or Nick Saban that you use the most, either in your life or with your team?
I mean, I got to say, stay with the process. That's what everybody else is going to say. Yesterday, I walked out to the team meeting, and they were like, well, I wonder what he's going to ask about the video that I sent. And Coach Weir's, being his sense of humor, is like, well, all you got to do is just stay with the process, because that's probably going to answer everything. So that would be it. But I believe in it. Like, okay, like, it is, life's a process. This is a process. But if you dig in and understand where that came from Nick Saban and why he went to it, I think it was 1998, was because of a sports psychologist that worked with his team. And that, I really think it works, and it helps us all to not get too high, not get too low. So I would say that would be the main one. And then as I've gotten older, just from my own and our coaches, is the transactional coaching, understanding what that means. And in today's landscape, still keeping that at the centerpiece, even though you're going to have to go out sometimes and get 9 new guys off the transfer portal and have some tough conversations with guys that just aren't maybe where they need to be. So, but still, I would have to say staying with the process. And, I got a bunch of them, but that'd be my number one.
Let's ask a couple fun ones to let you get out of here. This is what's cool about these shows, and I hope you agree, is that we don't really talk a ton of baseball. I mean, we talk a ton of baseball, but it's more holistic, and it's to get to know the people that make it all happen. But I do want to ask you this. You're late in the LSU game. Tommy White's on the mound. They got another big boy coming up. what is Scott Forbes' stomach doing in the dugout at that point?
Tommy White coming up to the plate. Of course,
Tommy
that's
White's
how it
up
always
there at the
happens,
plate.
don't you? Like
Do
when
what?
you take the lead or something and it's a big game and you got to get 3 outs. I mean, rarely is it 7, 8, 9 that's coming up.
Oh, it's always 1, 2, 3 or 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, so I just walk in there after we score that run, and I'm like, well, I mean, what goes in my mind is what I tell the guys all the time. When it's easy, it's easy. But when it's hard, it's way more gratifying. And it's going to be hard in those big games. So sure enough, Tommy White's leading off. And then the 2-hole guy was hot as a firecracker, and then the 3-hole guy is gigantic with 30 home runs. So
I was going to say a monster.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, let's get this leadoff, Dalton, get this leadoff guy out. And if we can get to Jared Jones with 2 outs with nobody on, I'm going to feel really good because we ain't giving that boy nothing to hit. If we lose by the next guy on deck, fine. But, I thought he was the most dangerous. I thought he was the most locked in. So it was more like, but pretty confident too. Like, hey, we took that lead and I've got a good feeling here. But, it's gone both ways. I walked in there my second year as a head coach here. We took the lead against Arkansas and then the guy hit a leadoff double. So really for me, it's like, man, we got to get it deep down thinking we need to get this leadoff guy. I'm not going to Coach Gaines and say, hey, make sure you get the leadoff guy.
Are you over there going, don't throw him that?
Yeah, like he already. But
it's kind of like going out.
I was a little more. I don't get too nervous in games. I was a little more like, whoa, when I walked in for the 9th against West Virginia, it just kind of hit me like, dang, we get these 3 outs, we're going to Omaha. Because you're so into it, you don't think about it until it happens. And sure enough, the leadoff guy gets on and the bases are loaded and we find a way. But looking back, like I wouldn't have it any other way because, well, maybe I would. There were some years where we went to Omaha and we won by like 9 runs both games in the Supers. A little better for your heart, your hair, probably.
My favorite thing is like, Dalton, we need you to throw strikes here. Well, what the hell you think I'm going to do, Coach? I mean, appreciate the kind words.
We had a conversation about stupid comments in the players' lounge, like reminding our team, like, don't make stupid comments, and that would be one of them. Throw strikes, like, okay, no, like, I'm Dalton, this pitch, like, we work on that too. Like, I don't want to hear. I don't know what. I'll keep it quiet.
Come on, no. Share some stupid comments.
You hear some interesting things, but that's what makes it so great. And I hope I hear them like crazy because this place was slammed for the regionals and the super regionals, and I love it that way. And if they want to yell at me all you want, just come because our guys play better when those seats are full for sure.
Absolutely. Grace, get into fun conversation. I'm going to let him slide on it. I want to hear. He hears everything. It's like school teacher out there, Scott. You hear everything. I want to hear the craziest stuff you've ever heard before one day.
I can't. I'd be throwing some players under the bus. I can't do that.
How fast do you think your heart was beating during those Supers?
I have no idea, honestly.
Do you like track it? I know Hubert's wife makes him wear an Oura ring just so she knows what that heart rate looks like. Hubert's wife.
Coach Davis's wife.
Shoot, let me tell you something. I need to talk to Hubert. I think we're going to have breakfast soon because I tried that Oura ring, and all that Oura ring told me every morning was that I was beeping in the red. So I said, you know what? I feel good today. I'm putting this Oura ring. It's actually up in this cabinet right here. Same thing with the Apple Watch. I was like, enough of this thing. This thing buzzing and telling me I need to stand up and telling me I got to work out. Like I got rid of all that stuff, Grace, because I don't want to know what my heart rate is. I'm going to try to eat good, get some sleep, and go with it.
Ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss.
I mean, I'm sure it would have been nice and calm during those situations.
Who on your
low heart rate guy?
Yeah. Work on it.
Who on your team is the lowest heart rate? Because I tell you what, Tyson Bass and his press availability, he don't look like he gets excited about much.
Yeah, I told him next time he does interviews, if he doesn't have that gum out, he'll never do another one. That was the laughing. We laughed about that as a team. He does have a low heartbeat. That's for sure. I think a lot of our guys have worked hard on, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes in programs. And Jenny Shannon works with our guys. She's our sports psychologist here. She's outstanding. And you can have techniques that can help with that because you should have exciting feelings, because if you don't, it doesn't mean anything. So that, those people that look like they have a slow heartbeat, they've worked on having that slow heartbeat. And I would say we tell our guys, you can't have a slow heartbeat if you don't work and you're not prepared, because that little birdie's on your shoulder. It'd be like us going into Texas Tech and we just didn't look at him at all, as a coaching staff, like, oh, we'll trust our preparation, because we do. That's what's most important, but you still have to prepare. So I feel like we have a lot of guys with some slow heartbeats. DeCaro stands out. To be as young as he is, to have that presence, that poise on the mound. And then I enjoy watching guys that don't have it originally, that train and train and train and figure out how to control it, figure out a good routine. But Bass stands out to everybody because he stands in the box looking like he's asleep. And then
I was going to say, what's the difference between not really caring versus a slow heartbeat? I mean, there's...
Yeah. All of our guys care. But they work on it, and I don't know if one stands out. I'd say DeCaro and some other guys for sure.
Well, I'll give you a last fun one, Coach. Do you have a favorite road trip on the schedule or a team that you're most looking forward to play this season?
Oh, no. I don't even know where we're going on the road, just off the top of my head. I enjoy going on the road. They're testing our scoreboard right now, so y'all can probably hear that.
Yeah, hey, live radio.
I mean, Florida State. I always have to say Florida State, because those games down there, that crowd. No disrespect to all the other ones. The other ones will be great too. But it's hard for me to look forward to going anywhere if I think I'm going to be cold.
I was going to say, you better get the parkas out this year.
I got the parka and the hot hands. We're ready. I got a heated vest. I got it all ready. But Florida State, that's the last series of the year. You hope there's a lot on the line. Well, there's going to be something on the line. But all my years, I remember when I was a volunteer playing Florida State. I'm sorry about that noise. They were the standard when I got here with Coach Fox as a volunteer. Like, they were the standard. And thinking, man, can we ever get our program to even close to what it's like here? So I always think about that when I go there. They sing the Canadian national anthem. They have the K-Time lady. It's hot. It's a great environment. So I would say Florida State, but there's so many. I enjoy the road trips, just with the team and the camaraderie. That's a lot of fun. I also like playing at the Bosch.
Can't beat it. And you'll open at the Bosch. Play a lot of games at the Bosch this year, but it starts on February 14th against Texas Tech. Opening day starter is?
Today it's DeCaro. And that's the biggest thing we have to figure out. I'm really excited about tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, hopefully the weather hold up. We got a lot of guys that are battling to pitch to start Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that's going to work itself out. And some of those guys that may actually win the job, we may decide to put in the bullpen anyway, because that's best for our team. So I don't have an answer on the rest of the rotation currently. I just know that it's a battle, and a good battle. But I do know right now, if we started today, DeCaro with Tho Friday and Matty Mathias would be our closer, and everything else in between. Cam Pageant would for sure be out of the bullpen too. He's been really good in that setup or anything role. So we've got to figure out who's going to be in the Saturday, Sunday role, and maybe who we're going to set up for Tuesday, Wednesday as well.
Be here before you know it. Appreciate you, Scott, taking the time to talk to us. It's always fun. Looking forward to doing these during the year. And like I said, we'll talk more specific baseball during the season, but it's always fun to dig into who Scott Forbes is.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all doing it this week too, because next week Coach Fox gets inducted.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, he's getting the due he deserves.
I'm going. I wouldn't miss it for anything unless it snows in Kansas City, so hopefully it doesn't, because I'm going and coming the same day. At least that's what I'm hoping to do. And that is a big deal. And the thing about Coach Fox, the reason it's a big deal is because of the influence he had on all of us. I don't look at it as being a coach with Coach Fox. I was a player. So you look at it different when you play for somebody. And, the chats and the camaraderie, 16 years, I believe, at North Carolina Wesleyan. People forget how many relationships he has there, too. I saw a table that's just full of North Carolina Wesleyan players, and that's pretty cool. So it's a big deal next week, and hopefully we can give him a Hall of Fame present by playing well on Valentine's Day.
Absolutely. He would appreciate that. He's always been, it's about the program. Even when you try to get him to talk about himself, he's like, it's about the program and all that. It's a special guy, a special award for him. Appreciate you taking time with us. Safe travels there. We'll see you on Valentine's Day.
I look forward to it. Thanks a ton. Y'all have a great day.